What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo. I was wondering if you guys wondered the same thing about the mummies case. Because, as you guys know, when I spoke to Thierry Jamin, he told me some things that made me rethink how the Five Eyes regard this case. Thierry told me that people like Mr. Steve Mera and other investigators went to Peru to try and get exclusivity for the mummies. They didn't get it, and that turned some of these people into debunkers. In terms of Mr. Darcy Weir, who, as you guys know, he's a major detractor of the mummies. He keeps claiming they're fake. I don't know how it all went down when he went to Mexico, because as I understand, he went to Mexico. I don't know if he went to Peru. He could clarify that. That'd be cool if he could. But I don't know if he went through the same process. I know that in Mexico there are many more doubts about the mummies due to how they arrived in the country, because as far as I understand, it wasn't exactly legal. And I'm not accusing anybody of anything before anybody jumps at me. I'm just saying, I've been trying to ask people who have been involved in the mummies going to Mexico, the bodies, and nobody has given me a straight answer. So that only leads me to believe that it wasn't all legal per se. So if they did use loopholes to get them to Mexico, they should say that. They should just be straight about it, you know? So, this is for all the people who are wondering what the Five Eyes think right now about the mummies. We saw Dr. Garry Nolan saying what he thinks about them. Let's refresh with a clip right here.
On my signal, Dr. Garry Nolan just pinged, and he says, Matt, this presentation is amazing. Again, this is Dr. Garry Nolan of Stanford University, the executive director of the Soul Foundation. And he was, and he says, I don't want to come on. I was going to ask him if he wants to come on the air, but he says he looks like shit today. So he's just going to text these questions. But
so do I.
Well, you should see me without a suit. I totally look horrible. So anyway, yeah. So Dr. Nolan says, Matt, this presentation is amazing. Clearly, he's very impressed. He was noting here that there seem to be two different types. He notes here, the small ones seem very different than the other one that is crouched over. Are these two species?
In fact, they've described three, as far as I know, three different separate species of these mummies that were all discovered in this same repository of these body or corpses, really is what they are. They're not really mummies, they're corpses,
right?
Because they have all of their internal organs that are highly desiccated and fairly difficult to figure out what you're looking at. But as far as their interior organ structures, but they have discovered three different species that I'm aware of. All of them are quite different than one another. So.
Yeah. Dr. Nolan was noting that the brain cases are very different between the two. So is it when he says that the brain cases are different, is the internal volume of the brain casing different in size, or is it more of just the shape of it? And would that indicate a difference in age of the different ones?
So I don't know if you're referencing these two that are juxtaposed here in the slide on the left, or if he's talking about comparing like Josefina here in the foreground on the left to Maria, who's a much different, humanoid specimen. The sizes of these are way different. These little smaller ones are about 60 centimeters long. And the Maria, I think, was like 1.68 meters long. So she's about the size of an average human female.
Okay.
These are very small. These are, let's say, 2 feet long, So yeah, they're way, way different.
Dr. Nolan was asking. He noted earlier, just kind of going back to his message here. He was saying that he says they seem to be two different types. The small ones seem very different than the one that is crouched over. So I think perhaps he's talking about the one that was that was going through the CT scan.
Oh,
and also a note from Dr. Nolan as well, is a possible these beings came from a different caste system per se.
It's absolutely possible.
Sure.
I have no idea what their hierarchy of, this is going to be something that anthropologists and sociologists, this one reason that the journal that picked this article up is because that's the kind of things that this particular journal that's produced in Brazil, these are the kind of questions that they address in their journal, is the sort of social and environmental consequences of discoveries like this, and what they could mean. And so I think that that's the reason that this particular journal picked up this article and peer-reviewed it and published it.
Yeah, so that's what ticked off everybody in the English-speaking community about the mummies. The fact that someone so accomplished and so important within the UFO community as Dr. Garry Nolan coming out and saying that the data is interesting, that sent a lot of people back to the mummy train. Let's just call it that, okay? So I found a video. I'm not sure where it's from, but it's an interview that Mr. Danny Sheehan did a few months ago. I think it was around between April and May, something like that. And they asked him directly about the mummies. And every time he's asked about this, I thought that he was always given non-answers. But listen to this.
This is the old Nazca Mummies question. It keeps coming up. Look, I know what's going on there. Our New Paradigm Institute has taken no position on this yet. I've been contacted by a number of people who are involved in that, including Jaime and others, and the other folks that are doing a major documentary film series on it. I know that samples of the mummies have been brought to the United States and are in the hands of certain scientists that are examining the portions of the autopsy remains at the present time. I know that there's a team of additional people from the United States who are going to be going down to Peru to conduct on-site examinations and genome tests and stuff, DNA tests and stuff on the bodies that are there. I also know that there's a major pushback that is going on the part of the Minister of Culture of Peru, who is asserting emphatically that these are not real, that he believes that these are part of a kind of a historical cottage industry that goes on down in South America of conning the gringos into buying artifacts and things that aren't real, et cetera. It's kind of an ongoing cottage industry down there. So that we're being very circumspect at the New Paradigm Institute, but we're in direct communications with people who are directly, intimately involved in the first person in attempting to evaluate these particular bodies that have been recovered down there. And we'll keep that in mind. I've told Jaime, and I've told others, Jaime Maussan, and I've told others that, look, until such time as there is definitive scientific proof, which should be possible with regard to the remains that are available, that these are some sort of a function of an extraterrestrial intervention of some sort. My position is, and the position of the New Paradigm Institute, is that they may be extraordinarily interesting biological phenomena, but it conceivably could be entirely planetary. If that's true, it's interesting, but it wouldn't relate to what we're doing. What we're doing has to do with extraterrestrial intelligence in an intervention here on our planet. Now, if in fact evidence begins to develop that this must be extraterrestrial, I know as Jaime believes, and as others believes, I know that Antonio Pinto and the people that are involved in this, and I know that Michael Mazzola and the other folks that are working on this, I know them all. They're all personal friends, and I have high regard for them. But I've said that until such time as it crosses the line and supports reasonable evidence that this is of an extraterrestrial nature, the New Paradigm Institute will not be taking any position on that.
So, this is very interesting because this tells me a couple of things. One is Mr. Danny Sheehan is invested in discovering or uncovering the ET reality, which is extraterrestrials. But according to the data, unless they have been covering up a lot of stuff, we still haven't cracked anti-gravity, and we still don't know how to travel between stars. And the official data suggests that there have been no craft coming from outer space and visited Earth. That is still very debatable amongst the UFO community folk, but there is a lot of evidence that suggests there may be a civilization that once lived here and that it may still live here that are essentially what the Nazca bodies are. It is very telling to me that Mr. Danny Sheehan does not want to be associated with the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis. All he seems to want is for the extraterrestrial hypothesis to be proven by his new Paradigm Institute. But I wonder what he thinks now, because so much new information has come forward since April, May, that I don't know if Sheehan has changed his mind. I know that if I asked him today, he would still tell you that he has no position on the mummies. And that's respectable. But I think that the evidence is already too overwhelming to ignore. We know that Elizondo recently spoke about the mummies, and he said what we're all saying, basically, that the way that the case was handled in Mexico was too sloppy, and the way that these bodies were presented, it was essentially a circus. And I agree. I agree that there have been so many different mistakes made with the mummies, especially from the Mexican side. And also, I think that either Mr. Jaime Maussan is holding on to information that makes him keep saying that these are hybrids, and a lot of people within his camp seem to think these are extraterrestrial, or he's just jumping the gun as he usually does. Because let's face it, Mr. Jaime Maussan, he keeps defending his image by saying that he's no hoaxer, and he's well within his right to say that he's not a hoaxer. But I do think that throughout the years, he has jumped the gun multiple times. And many of the cases that he's covered have eventually proven to not be all true. Whether that's his fault or not, that is still debatable. He will tell you that it's not. And he will have a right to defend himself. And that's cool. He should. But that doesn't change the optics that exists about him, especially in the English-speaking community. Because I can tell you for a fact that every time that I've approached scientists who are from either the US or the UK or Australia, they all tell me the same thing about Jaime. They don't want to be associated with him because of these other cases. And I think that's what's happening within the Five Eyes. He managed to get Congressman Burchett and Congresswoman Luna to talk to him about the mummies. These are Republicans. So you guys need to understand that there's still a division, even within the UFO community, which I think is stupid, between people who are right wing or left wing. And since the left wing people have actively kept ignoring Jaime, his only other option is to go to the right wing people, and those are the ones who are listening to what he has to say. Not that it doesn't have any value. I hold no position on the political war that you guys are currently under, but it is very interesting that only Republicans are listening to Mr. Jaime Maussan. I want to know, why is it that the majority of the UFO community who are like at the very top are still reticent to listen to Mr. Maussan? I mean, I already kind of know the answer to that, but this is the reason why the case has taken so long to be taken seriously. And I don't know what will happen with Mr. Maussan and the Congress people, but I know that his ultimate goal is to take the bodies to the U.S. Congress and give the whole case more credibility. I just wish that there was a way we could change all this perception around the case, because I think that the mummies is a very important case for all of us, and I think that it is not being taken as seriously as it should be. I know that there are already efforts from people of the Five Eyes to investigate the case. I know some people who are leading this investigation, and we've heard recently Ross Coulthard during Reddit AMA talking about this, that he is helping out some scientists and people who are researchers to investigate these mummies, but they're trying to circumvent Jaime because of this stigma that I am telling you, and this perception there is about him that I'm telling you. This is something that is inescapable. If Mr. Maussan wants to address it, I think he should do it in a public setting, and if he cares, really. All the messages that I've gotten from his people and people who defend him is that he doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. That's okay. I mean, if you really think that your reputation is not hurt in front of the Five Eyes, then by all means, keep doing you. But I do think that you do need to cleanse your image in some way or another. If you want people like Mr. Sheehan or Mr. Elizondo or Dr. Garry Nolan, Dr. Jacques Vallée to take the case seriously, you need to do something. You can't just keep going to only one side of the aisle and hope that they are going to be approving whatever you want to do. You need to have both sides of the aisle and the scientific community and the ufology community to be on board with what you're doing. I hope you get what you want, but I think you need to do it carefully, and I think you need to look back at why people think this about you and fix it. Then and only then will you be accepted by the scientific community and everybody else. That's what I think. That's the perception there is. And Mr. Danny Sheehan is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. I know you have a huge reputation and a huge career and all that, but that's the way things are right now. So you need to approach someone who is willing to help you. I'm going to keep trying to investigate the case on my own, with my own team. And to all the people who are going to inevitably come after me for this, don't shoot the messenger, guys. I'm only telling you what's going on. This is the perception there is about the whole case. This is the reason a lot of serious people have been approached and are rejecting the case. That's it. I'm not taking any positions. I really don't care. I care about the bodies. I care about the scientists who have conducted these investigations, and the majority of them think that these bodies are real. That's what I care about. And that's what I'm going to keep doing. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think of this clip from Danny Sheehan in the comments. I'm going to play you one last clip, which is from Lou Elizondo on That UFO podcast. Here it is.
Your thoughts on, and here's one for you, the Nazca Mummies that have been doing the rounds over the last year or so?
Again, I haven't been involved. I'm a little disappointed the way that it was brought out, whether it's legitimate or illegitimate. I think it was brought out in such a sensationalized way that it really diminished some of the value and maybe some of the impact of it. Bringing it to the Mexican Congress in the way that it was a little bit showboaty, and I think it turned a lot of people off. So even if it turned out to be legitimate, the problem is first impressions weren't that great. So I don't have any real comment. Again, I wasn't part of that. I haven't studied the mummies, and I don't have the qualifications. I'm not a biological forensic scientist, and so I wouldn't be able to tell you one way or the other. I do know that some people said there's some very interesting aspects of it and compelling aspects of it, but I'll let the experts handle that.
So that's another perception, and that's also something that needs to be fixed. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, how this case is going. What do you think will happen when Jaime meets with Congresswoman Luna on September the 12th, which is 2 days from now? Do you think some advancement will be made on the case? Let me know in the comments. If you like the content you see, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share it on any platform you want. YouTube loves that, by the way. Give me your comments on what you think of this case and how it's going. If you have any questions about the case, feel free to ask them in the comments and I'll do my best to respond to everything. But without further ado, I'll leave you guys until tomorrow for the next video. Bye-bye.